Smart supply chains have proved to be the optimal solution in navigating the industry in this current pandemic situation. They're helping businesses build back in better ways and are also shaping the new normal. Hello and welcome to yet another interesting episode of Construction Week's Expert Interviews. I am Disha Dadlani, your host for today, and we are highlighting for today's episode the role that supply chains and logistics play in sustaining the construction industry in specific at a time of crisis, as well as the future of smart supply. And for this, I am joined by Naim Yazbeck, who is the Regional Director, Enterprise and Partner Group, Microsoft Gulf. Thank you so much for joining me today, Naim.
Thanks a lot for inviting me.
So to start off, Naim, the construction industry has been long identified as one that has leveraged technology in a piecemeal fashion. Now, what I want to understand is your view of the industry. Do you view it as a traditional sector? And if yes, in terms of tech adoption, and if yes, how do you at Microsoft aim to revitalize this industry?
Yeah, so I think the UAE construction industry is both traditional and non-traditional. Let me put it this way. The reality is that some of our customers are very traditional, because the reality, if you look at this industry from a global perspective, is one of the very traditional industries in terms of technology adoption. However, we're starting lately seeing a bit of a change in the way our large customers in the specifically construction industry have started to look at technology in a different way. And I think what happened is that the pandemic came, and definitely it had a major impact on how major customers in the construction industry look at technology, because they have realized that technology is not a nice to have stuff. It's something that they need to have, or they just cannot operate. Suddenly, all of their employees are working from home. The way they have to manage safety on the sites changed overnight. Their cost structure have changed, and they had to look at how do they look at cost. So all of this have I think enabled a trend that we're seeing lately around construction companies looking at technology, I would say, in a much more aggressive way. Things like, how do they monitor sites remotely, from people working from home, how they can monitor the different aspect of the site, the different elements of the site, all the way from the physical elements of the materials to the safety of the people, and all of this, how this can be managed remotely using technology, and how can technology also help them take immediate decisions around this monitoring. It's not only monitoring for the sake of monitoring, but if there is a certain health issue, how can technology help enable those companies react immediately? So we're starting seeing lots of this, and of course, technologies like IoT is starting to play a big topic there, because with IoT sensors cost going down, those IoT sensors can be all over the site, all the way from the hats that the workers they put, to the building materials, to the building constructions, and then you can get real-time data, and through those real-time data you can take lots of decisions on the fly. What we've done also in UAE as Microsoft is that we have invested heavily in a local data center, hypercloud data center 2 years back, which also drove the cost of technology further down to those companies, and enabled the capabilities around compute and around data processing that just wasn't there before. So put all of this together, I think there is a combination of appetite of the industry to look at technology in a different way, a pandemic that have drove a shift of mindset, and a technology cost that is being taken down, that is allowing those customers and in the industry to leverage technology in a different way. And we're seeing really some very positive momentum leveraging all of this from very large, I would say, players in the construction industry.
Right. And it's interesting, Naeem, that you mentioned safety in the construction industry. That is actually one of the questions that I was getting at. We have, of course, come to realize and respect the importance of health and safety more so in 2020. Now, I want to understand, how does Microsoft prioritize safety? And are you doing anything in this regard in terms of deploying solutions to ensure safety on sites?
Yeah, of course. Look, I think, as I said, I want to go back to what IoT can do. I think the beauty of IoT is that it enables getting real-time data and taking immediate decision, and definitely safety come to the first. So imagine the ability to have cameras all over the site that is monitoring who have helmet, who doesn't have helmet, is monitoring who's putting a mask, who's not putting a mask, and all of this data is being fed to a central command center that can immediately take immediate actions. So when safety measures are there, the things we don't need to wait anymore for physical inspection. Everything is being monitored real time, and through those real time data, we can take real time actions around safety. So I think the level of safety and how do we look at safety, we've taken it up, I would say, miles from where we used to what we used to do a few years back. And with the pandemic, as I said, I think the pandemic, we like it or we don't like it, it has forced the companies to look in a completely different way on how to look at safety. So those kind of solutions that potentially a year back they were a nice to have solutions, now they're a must to have solution. Every single construction company have enabled IoT solutions around safety. We've worked with the very large of them and the very small of them, and I think they're all appreciative of the fact that we're able to deploy those type of technologies at a really lower cost, and they're able to get the benefit out of it.
Right. Very aptly put. And I think today, health and safety for the construction industry goes beyond the conventional health and safety, because we are also talking COVID-19. So that's, of course, a very interesting point there. Now, Naeem, why is it now increasingly important to digitize the supply chain? And do you see this continue as a solution even in a post-pandemic scenario?
I think the pandemic have shown, I would say, a lot of our customers that digitization can help them drive lots of costs down, and supply chain is a big thing, because in the previous world we used to bring all the carpenters at the same time to build a certain site or do something. Now when a lot of the, I would say, stuff are being pre-built, whether in China or in India, the supply chain has become completely different, and how we need to how a supply chain has to be managed is completely different. Also, if you look at construction, because construction depends heavily on large contracts that have to be delivered at a certain period of time. So getting the supply chain right is very crucial, because you need to get it right at a certain time plan. If I look at all of this from how IoT is going to enable getting the data, to how we are going to use all the compute power and cloud power to track supply chain, to digital twins, and how we're able to really get the data from all of this to be able to get a predictable supply chain life cycle, all of this have driven costs down and proved to be so critical for companies. And I think majority of this will stay after the COVID, because again, I think post the COVID, we will not go back to a world that is a pre-COVID world.
What, according to you, are the biggest and the most common mistakes that companies make when they approach digital transformation?
That digital transformation, I think, used to be a buzzword. I think we are way beyond the buzzword. I think it's now we're very crucial on what digital transformation mean, what are the pillars of digital transformation, and how do we really look at the digital pillars, all the way from how do you empower your employees, to how do you manage your operations, to how do you create a new product, etc., etc. Because digital transformation is not a process on its own. It has to be aligned at the end of the day to the business priorities of those organizations, and it has to map to what we want to do. And that's why, from a Microsoft perspective, we use what we call the three-tier approach on how first we uh, digitize existing setup, then transform it to the new world, then innovate together. And I think you cannot jump this life cycle, because if you try to jump it, you're going to pay the price. And from a construction perspective, we've seen a lot of success into leveraging this life cycle. I think it's early days, because what the pandemic did is, I think it pushed companies to look at piecemeals.
Now, since we are discussing the marriage and integration of tech and construction or architecture, I also want to gather your views on how crucial it is to use the right technology while planning urban cities.
Yeah, nowadays, the same way you put an architecture design for the physical building, you have to put an architecture design for the technology as you build new urban cities, or what we call smart cities. Because those smart cities operate on technology, they operate on data, they operate on autonomous systems, and technology are a core element. And that's why today, I mean, in the old day, you used to have an architect who will draw how the building will look like or how the city will look like. Today, a core part of it is a digital architect who is going to architect how technology is going to drive the city, how we will enable autonomous cars to operate, how we're going to automate people ordering online in the city, how we're going to deliver supply chain within the city. So I think technology is definitely going to be a core element, and those technologies are there. We're not talking about science fiction here. We're talking about technologies that exist today, that our customers are already using them. I think there is a certain level of education that is required. We're starting to see more and more tendency toward large customers, and here I'm talking the likes of Amar, the likes of Petrofac, and the likes of others, really leveraging on technologies and coming with, I would say, groundbreaking ideas on how are they building this. We've seen a very innovative initiative from Petrofac lately on how they're using data to enable instant decision making for their customers as they build their refineries and oil and gas facilities. We've seen also tremendous work from Amar around smart building and smart cities, and how they're also enabling a whole experience of the tenants using technology, being it on mobile or non-mobile. So I think we're seeing lots of positivity around this, and more to come.
To wrap off, if you could tell me a bit more about your roster of regional construction and real estate clients at the moment, and also about your plans for the future to deploy further smart solutions across the construction market in the Middle East. With the time, of course, I'm sure you'd agree with me now being right.
Yeah, absolutely. So uh, we have announced last year that globally we're investing $5 billion in IoT technology. And I would argue that the construction industry is going to be a big beneficiary of this investment around the world, but also here in the region, and specifically in the UAE, knowing that the UAE has always been at the forefront of leverage technology. Actually, some of the I would say IoT technology implementation in smart city and smart building in UAE, where our customers are leveraging this to reduce, for example, their electricity bills. I would say they are some of the first implementations in the world around this. So we are investing heavily on technology that will definitely fit the construction industry. Another technology we're investing it is called the edge technology, and the edge technology is the ability of doing high intensity compute, leveraging 5G, so in partnership with telcos, so that we install low end devices at the close to the construction sites, so that we can get real-time data and make real-time decisions.
Thank you very much for joining us today on the show and for sharing your valuable insights.
No, thanks a lot, Disha, for inviting me. And again, I wish everyone a great 2021. I hope that the pandemic will be something that will be done soon, and hopefully will cross that bridge, and the world will be a better world.
Right. On that note, that was all for this episode, but we will be back very soon. Until then, like, share, comment, and subscribe to Construction Week's YouTube channel for more such exclusive interviews. Thank you for watching, and until next time, goodbye.